What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you part 2 of my Rising Rampage full set review. If you guys missed part 1, I'd highly recommend checking it out by clicking the card above. That way you can familiarize yourself with the first 50 cards of this set. But for this video, we're going to be covering the second 50, including the spell cards, trap cards, OCG, imports, and TCG exclusives. And do keep in mind that these cards will be legal for the Pro Play Tour Games event taking place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on August 17th and 18th. Only $20 to enter, a $2,000 prize pool up for grabs, and I'll be there doing commentary for the live stream. So links are in the description if you want to pre-register, and I hope to see you guys there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and finish the set review for Rising Rampage. Now, kicking things off, we have a card called Link Back. It is a normal spell card. Target one Link monster you control in the extra monster zone, move that monster you control to your main monster zone it points to, then you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to its Link rating. You can only activate one Link Back per turn. This is kind of an interesting card. I could see like this card filling a niche, but again, I'm not a fan of cards that just require you to have very specific requirements for you to activate them. So this requires you to have a Link monster, specifically in the extra monster zone, and you have to move it to a zone that it points to that's available in the main monster zone. Like, that just seems like too much. There's much better cards you can play, and I'm not really a fan of this card all that much. Grid Rod is an equip spell. Equip only to a Cybers monster you control. It gains 300 attack. It is unaffected by your opponent's card effects. Also, the first time it will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. The fact that it's unaffected by opponent's card effects actually seems pretty good. If this face-up card on the field is destroyed by battle, or excuse me, is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, nothing by battle, but I guess technically that would follow the same requirement, you can activate this effect. Cybers monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects until the end of this turn. That's pretty good, like the fact that it just bestows protection to your entire Cybers board, but again, we don't have the Cybers synergy for this card to really stand out yet. I think it's an okay card, but again, you have to justify running this over something that's going to do so much more for you in the long run, and that's really hard to justify. Next up, we have Rising Fire. So it's an equipped spell, always treated as a Salamangreat card. If you control no monsters, activate this card by targeting one fire monster in your graveyard, special summon and equip it with this card. The equipped monster gains 500 attack. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can banish one monster on the field. You can only use the effect of, each effect of Rising Fire once per turn. So it's basically like a single targeting resurrection effect for Salamangreat. I think the biggest issue here is the fact that you have to control no monsters, and while that's like not impossible, I mean, it's a card that you basically have to be behind for it to be good, and you want to have proactive cards to help you push your game state forward, not cards that you're hoping you don't have cards on the field to use. Like, you could use Will of the Salamangreat, effectively do the exact same thing, and basically you can use it while you have monsters on the field, so there's really, to me, no reason to use that card. Now we have Fury of Fire, another normal spell. It's always treated as a Salamangreat card. Special summon up to 2 Salamangreat monsters with different names from your hand or graveyard in defense position, but their effects are negated also for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, you can only special summon from the extra deck once, and you can only use this once, or you can only use one Fury of Fire per turn. So again, it's more revival and more recursion, which the deck does really well, but the fact you can only special summon from your extra deck once is unfortunate, because you can't like summon 2 level 3s and make a Mirage Stalio and then go into something else, because you can only special summon from the extra deck once. So it's a little bit limiting, although you could technically resurrect something like a Sunlight Wolf and like a Mirage Stalio, so that might be like a little bit good. But again, I don't really like these situational cards. It's not bad. I think this one's more playable than the equip spell for sure, but at the same time, I think Will is just better. I feel like you would just play more copies of Will if you were going to play that. Now we have Fortune Vision. Continuous spell. When this card is activated, you can add one Fortune Lady card from your deck to your hand. That's already pretty strong. Once per turn, if a card or cards you control is banished by card effect, except during the damage step, you can activate this effect. This turn, monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, even if this card leaves the field. Once per turn, if a card or cards you control, or your opponent controls, is banished by card effect, except during damage step, you can make the next battle damage you take this turn become 0, even if this card leaves the field. You can only activate one Fortune Vision per turn, obviously, because it's a Rhoda for the archetype. Again, I'm not too, well versed on Fortune Ladies, but anything to me that says when you activate it, you could add one of the archetype specific card to your hand seems pretty good. And I know they have the banishing thing going on, so that seems pretty strong as well. Honestly, I see no reason why you wouldn't want to run 3 of this card. Now we have Fortune Lady Calling. Normal spell, if you control a Fortune Lady monster, special summon one Fortune Lady monster from your deck with a different name from the card you control. Also, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Synchro monsters. You can only activate this once per turn. We already know they have the crazy broken Synchro, no, I wouldn't say broken, but it's a very powerful Synchro monster we discussed in the first episode, so that's not really a surprise. I've always talked about anytime there's a card that special summons from the deck, it's typically like higher up on the scale for me than most other cards. So I think this card's pretty good. Again, I don't know like how many of this you would want to run, but to me, this is a card I would look to and see like, this sounds pretty good. It does lock you into synchros, but again, I think that's perfectly okay for what Fortune Lady's trying to do. Now we have Yosenju Wind Worship. Quick play spell. If you control 3 or more Yosenju monster cards with different names, return as many Yosenju monster cards you control to the hand as possible. Then draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. You can only activate 1 Yosenju Wind Worship per turn. So here's what I don't like about this card. The fact you need to first control 3 Yosenju monsters with different names, mind you, and then you have to have this card activate it. You basically take everything back, which I guess if it's at like the end of the like turn, I guess that's not terrible. And then you draw until you have 5 cards, which means you're only drawing 2, because presumably if your hand is empty, you activate this with the lone card in your hand and you're gonna have 3 cards back in your hand. So you're only drawing 2 at most with this card. That's a lot of hoops to jump through for me. Again, the fact that it's quick play is really good because you can do your whole turn and then draw 2, but again, you want to have the draw 2 to proactively do something rather than after the fact. So I'm kind of iffy about that one. Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi, the deck's field spell. All non-effect monsters on the field are unaffected by monster effects. And that's, again, one of the payoffs for playing Tenyi is that they have these very special cards. So the fact you make everything unaffected by monster effects seems pretty good. Once per turn, if your opponent special summons an effect monster or monsters, while you control face-down monster or non-effect monster, except during damage step, you can draw 2 cards. So again, this is really cool because the deck centralizes around having non-effect monsters. So as soon as your opponent special summons something, you get to draw 2, and that's every single time. It's a once per turn effect, not just like it's once per turn on your turn and your opponent's turn if they happen to have some recurring effect. That is a very, very strong field spell. Again, Tenyi, a little bit, underpowered in terms of their value, but a very, very good payoff card for playing them. Next, we have Vassal for the Dragon Cycle. Normal spell card, send 1 worm monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then, if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 Tenyi monster with a different name from the monster sent to the graveyard. You can only activate this once per turn. This card is incredible. We already talked about how they have effects that trigger when they're in the graveyard, so not only are you fueling your archetype and your engine, but you're also basically playing a searcher card. So it's an amazing card. All you have to have is a non-effect monster to get to add, which is really easy in this deck. Very, very solid card for the archetype. Elbors, the Sacred Lands of Cimoooooooo. Sick artwork on this card. Field spell. All Wing Beast monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can reveal 1 level 5 or higher Wing Beast monster in your hand. This turn, you can normal summon Wing Beast monsters for 1 less tribute, even if this card leaves the field. I guess that's a little nice bonus. If you control a Wing Beast monster, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 Wing Beast type monsters. This is very reminiscent of like Monarchs in a way, and it kind of makes sense because they do have a lot of high-level monsters in the Cimoooooooo deck. It's okay. It's nothing like incredible, but it's definitely pretty strong. In the fact that it gets you the extra normal summon, I think that's pretty good. Now we have Cimoooooooo Onslaught. Normal spell, discard 1 Wing Beast monster, add 2 Cimoooooooo monsters with different attributes from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 1 Wing Beast monster in your hand, and if you do, reduce the levels of monsters in your hand with the name by 1 for the rest of the turn, even after they are summoned. You can only use this effect of Cimoooooooo Onslaught once per turn. I'm not really too much of a fan of this card. It's like, you have to add them with different attributes, which means you can't add multiple winds, which is kind of awkward. So that means you have to add a wind and a dark. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not really too much of a fan. Cimoooooooo Repulsion. So it's a normal spell. Discard a Wing Beast monster. Return all cards in your opponent's spell and trap zone to the hand. Again, that's very good because this deck wants to have your opponent have no spells and traps, so you can do the resurrection thing. You can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 1 Wing Beast monster in your hand, and if you do, reduce the levels of monsters in your hand with that name by 1 for the rest of the turn, even after they're summoned. You can only use it once per turn. So again, we're trying to get as many of these effects as possible to reduce the levels to help making summoning these monsters easier, but again, it's kind of just all for naught in the long run. Hypernova Burst, normal spell, banish face down from your hand and or face up field 2 monsters that cannot be normal summoned. draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 Hypernova Burst per turn. So this is essentially a -1 because you have to use 2 monsters and this, so that's 3 cards and you're drawing 2. However, it's a fairly generic way to draw 2 cards, but you can't have normal summon monsters or no monsters that cannot be normal summoned to be used for this. I don't know, this is a bit of a weird one, but again, anytime there's a draw 2 card in Yu-Gi-Oh, people try to find a way to make it work. Psychic Fervor, quick play spell. During the battle phase, target 1 face-up monster you control. You lose life points equal to its attack, and if you do, that monster's attack is doubled until the end of this turn. It cannot attack directly during the turn you activate this card. You can only activate it once per turn. Again, I'm not a fan of battle phase tricks. This one's kind of cute, but the fact you can't even attack directly just, I think, kind of loses a lot of value for me, so I think I'll give that one a pass. Block Out Curtain, continuous spell. If a card or cards you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can destroy this card instead of one of those cards. If a card or cards your opponent control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead of one of those cards. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is interesting. The fact that it's like a generic way to like protect anything is kind of cool, but like you can't search this, so like I don't really see the point. That means you're hoping to hard draw it. I mean, I don't know, this is a bit of a weird one for me. If someone has a way to like make use of that, that'd be cool, but I'm not really seeing it. Sextet Summon. Normal spell, banish from your hand, graveyard, or face-up field 6 monsters, 1 of each Ritual, Fusion, Synchro Xyz, Pendulum, and Link, each with the same original type. Then special summon 1 monster from your deck or extra deck with the same original type as those banished monsters. You can only activate 1 Sextet Summon per turn. Yeah, that is absolutely never happening. Alright, draw Discharge, getting into trap cards now. Normal trap. When your opponent draws a card or cards by their own card effect, look at those cards, and if there are any monsters, inflict damage to your opponent equal to their combined attack. And if you do that, banish all cards you looked at. You can only activate 1 draw Discharge per turn. So this is kind of like, I want to say it's like kind of like modern day drop off in a way, but like they have to add by card effect. They can't do it during the draw phase. I don't know. Like this is just like, yeah, you get to banish all the cards they look at, but it's like, it's just like a 1-for-1 in the long term. I'm not feeling that card. All right, Marincess Wave. We've already talked about how good Marincess are, or at least the potential that they have. Normal trap. Now, this is where Marincess cards are good. If you control a level 3 or higher Marincess monster, you can activate this card from your hand. I said level. I meant Link 3 or higher Marincess monster. Excuse me. If you control a Marincess Link monster, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Negate that face-up monster's effects until the end of this turn. Then, if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of this turn. So effectively, you have an effect veiler plus blanket protection from your opponent's card effects due to this card, as long as you control a Link 3 or higher Marincess, and then you can activate this from the hand, so your opponent is more than likely not even going to be able to see this coming. This is a very, very good payoff card for Marincess, and you're probably going to be wanting to play this in some capacity if you're playing that engine in your deck. Now we have Marincess Current. Normal trap. When a Marincess Link monster you control is destroyed, when a Marincess Link monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the Link rating of that monster you control times 400. Then, if it destroyed an opponent's Link monster by battle while you controlled a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that destroyed Link ratings monster times 500. You can only activate it once per turn, and if you control Link 3 or higher Marincess, you can activate this from your hand. Again, battle stuff. This card, no, just don't play that card. All right, Fortune Lady Rewind. Normal trap. Target any number of your banished Fortune Lady monsters with different names. Special summon them, but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. You can only activate it once per turn. Pretty solid card. It's kind of like Return from the Different Dimension, except it's just for Fortune Ladies. If Fortune Ladies do a ton of banishing, this is a very, very strong card. And if you have a way to synchro them off so they don't get banished during the end phase, that's pretty, or excuse me, shuffled back into the deck. That's a very big difference because of this card. But yeah, pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Yosenju Sword Sting. Normal trap. If you control no monsters, reveal up to 2 Yosenju monsters with different names in your hand, then target the same number of face-up cards your opponent controls. Return them to the hand. You can only activate this once per turn. That's not bad. I mean, you're obviously not going to have monsters in the end phase unless your opponent negates the Yosenjus. That's pretty solid, honestly, because then he returns them to the hand, which means if they have extra deck cards, they're going to go back to the extra deck. That's a pretty good Yosenju card. Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. Counter Trap. When a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated while you control a face-up non-effect monster, negate the activation. If this set card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon one non-effect monster from your extra deck. So I think the biggest thing is here, it doesn't destroy, it just negates the activation, which is pretty significant. However, it is a counter trap that's pretty solid, and if it gets destroyed by your opponent, you get to special summon something for free. So all value, you'd probably play this in the Tenyi deck. Cimoooooooo Sky Battle. Continuous Trap. Wing Beast monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or their monsters' attacks except your Wing Beast monsters with the highest attack. You can send to the graveyard this card and 2 Cimoooooooo monsters you control with different original attributes whose original levels are 7 or higher. Return as many cards on the field to the hand as possible, and if you do, take 500 damage for each of the card returned to the hand, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. You can only use this effect of Cimoooooooo Sky Battle once per turn. I really don't see the point of playing this whatsoever. I mean, the fact that it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects to me is like the only reason you would play this, but I don't know. That's just like, there's so much extraneous text on there that literally does nothing. World Legacy Bestowal. Normal Trap. Activate one of the following effects. Send one Link monster your opponent controls to the graveyard, or banish 7 World Legacy cards from your graveyard, add 1 Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. You can only activate it once per turn. It's not bad. Again, it's kind of conditional because opponent has to either have a Link monster, which I guess isn't too far-fetched, or you have to banish 7 World Legacies, which is asking kind of a lot in my opinion. So it's like okay. Return to the normal trap. When exactly 1 monster is normal summoned or special summoned face up, except during damage step, destroy all monsters on the field with less attack than that monster. You can only activate this once per turn. It's kind of interesting. It's like a board wipe of sorts because it destroys everything with less attack. If you're playing a deck with gigantic monsters, so let's say maybe Dinosaur, or maybe Thunder Dragon, I could see this being okay, but again, it destroys, so that's kind of a problem. It's like an okay card because it's technically a board wipe, but again, I don't really think too highly of it because it destroys. Get Out. This is in my opinion, one of the better cards of the set. Target 2 monsters your opponent controls that were special summoned from the extra deck, shuffle them into the deck, and you can only activate this once per turn. It's a normal trap, and this is just good. It's a 1 for 2, which means you're getting huge card economy. You have the ability to shuffle anything that was special summoned from the extra deck, and most of these break my board type decks are going to have multiple monsters special summoned from the extra deck. It dodges destruction removal. It does target, which is a little bit of a downside, but honestly, very, very good card. I think this is something people are going to mess around with. Trap heavy decks are going to love this, especially because it can be searched with Trap Trick. Lots of good value there. Storm Dragon's Return. Normal trap. Target 1 banished monster, special summon it to your field, but return it to your hand during the end phase. You can only activate 1 Storm Dragon's Return per turn. I think it's funny that this comes out at the same time Tempest gets off the ban list. So this is another one of those special hyper rare prismatic secret rares you can pull. This is a pretty decent card overall. The fact it's basically I think it's Return from the Dark Dimension or something that does this for dark attributes that we got in Phantom Darkness, but it's basically a Monster Reborn, or a Call of the Haunted rather, for a banished monster, which is pretty nice, and you're probably going to do something with it, so returning it to the hand probably doesn't matter too much. Not a bad card. Set Tupper Cut. So we have a normal trap. When a monster you control is destroyed by battle, special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck with attack less than or equal to that destroyed monster in face down defense position. You can only activate this once per turn. Not a fan of cards that basically require something to be destroyed by battle. Way too conditional. They're going to be destroyed before that even happens. It's not bad. I guess it can go in face down defense, so Shadal or Subterror could maybe get some value out of it, but I'm not feeling it. Dwimmered Glimmer, cool name. Continuous Trap. Activate this card by banishing 1 face-up monster you control or 1 monster in your graveyard. Special summon this card as a normal monster, which is a spellcaster light with 0 attack and defense with the same level as that banished monster. It's still a trap. You can only activate 1 Dwimmered Glimmer per turn. So what's cool is that it gains the same level, so that means that you're going to be able to possibly do Xyz plays with it. You can synchro with it. It's a pretty interesting card. I don't exactly know what niche it would fill, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Now we have Fighting Dirty. So normal trap. If a card or cards you control and a card or card your opponent controls are destroyed by battle or card effect at the same time, each player draws 2 cards. You can only activate 1 Fighting Dirty per turn. So I don't like this because not only does it require both cards to be being destroyed at the same time, but you're giving your opponent cards. Not a fan. So now we're on to the TCG exclusives. Now, I don't think they have the artwork up for these yet because they're still relatively new and they haven't updated the database. But first up, we have Barricadeborg Blocker. It is a monster, it is a dark machine link effect with bottom and left arrows, 1000 attack for a link 2, requires 2 monsters with different names. So it's pretty generic for the most part. If this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 continuous or field spell card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. Face-up spells you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. I think overall this card is not bad. The fact that it's a pretty generic link 2 is nice. It adds the card at the end phase, which I think is bad, but I think if it did it during the main phase, it would be completely nuts. But at the same time, it protects your spells from being destroyed by your opponent's card effects. But again, destruction protection isn't like the greatest. It's okay. This card's not bad. Something you might just want to keep your eye on if you're playing a ton of spells, especially field or continuous. Next up, we have Hrevzilgur, I probably butchered that completely, the Desperate Doom Eagle. So it is a Wing Beast link effect wind with a Decode Talker arrow, so top, bottom, left, bottom, right, 2400 attack for 2+ wind monsters. Gains 2400 attack while your opponent has no monsters in their graveyard. Quick effect, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. So what's cool is that it's basically like a DD Crow quick effect on a link monster, so that's kind of neat. If your opponent doesn't have any monsters in the grave, which is highly unlikely, it would be a 4800 attack monster, and it can attack directly or into other things. It's not bad. You have to play winds to summon it, which I think is probably the biggest downside to it, but it's not bad. Next, we have Star Power, quick play spell. During damage calc, if your link monster battles an opponent's monster, your monster gains attack equal to the total levels and ranks of that monster it points to, times 400 during that damage calc only. You can only activate it once per turn. Again, damage calc shenanigans are so many better cards you can play. I'm just not a fan. Fuma Wave, normal trap. Target 1 face-up monster on the field, destroy 1 monster on the field with the same attribute but a different name as that monster. This is a pretty situational removal. I'm sure there's like some shenanigans you could probably do with this, like for combo ability, but again, you're gonna have to be hard pressed to actually want to play something like this when there's so many other better cards that effectively do the same thing. All right, so now we have the Dream Mirror TCG exclusives. This archetype, it's interesting to say the least. So Ikilos, the Dream Mirror Sprite, is a light fairy effect level 1, 0 attack, 500 defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, you can add 1 Dream Mirror card from your deck to your hand, except itself. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Terror is in the field zone, quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Ikilos the Dream Mirror Mara from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So I'm gonna go ahead and just read through all of these because they're a little bit weird. Again, this one does, so this one special summons and it also can add a card from deck to hand. So Ikilos the Dream Mirror Mara is a Dark Fairy effect level 1, 500 attack, 0 defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, special summon 1 Dream Mirror monster from your hand. So the other one searches while this one specials from the hand. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Joy is in the field zone, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 Ikilos the Dream Mirror Sprite from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now we have Morpheus, the Dream Mirror White Knight. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror, activate this effect. This card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Terror is in a field zone, quick effect, tribute this card, special summon 1 Morpheus, the Dream Mirror Black Knight from your deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. I should note that this card is a light warrior effect, level 8, with 1000 attack and 2800 defense. Now we have Morpheus, the Dream Mirror Black Knight, which is a dark warrior effect, level 8, 2800 attack, 1000 defense. So there's a lot of parallelism here in terms of like going between back and forth. If this card's special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Joy is in a field zone, quick effect, tribute this, special summon 1 Morpheus Dream Mirror White Knight from your deck. So basically all this ability that as a quick effect, you can special summon like the other one in the light or dark going back and forth. It's a really weird concept. And now this deck also has not one, but 2 field spells. Keep in mind, Terraforming just went to 1. During the end, this is Dream Mirror of Joy, field spell. During the end phase, you can banish this card, activate 1 Dream Mirror of Terror directly from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. Dream Mirror monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or their monsters' attacks, which I guess that's pretty good, except your Dream Mirror monsters with the highest level. This effect is only applied while you control a light Dream Mirror monster. And then we also have Dream Mirror of Terror, which is the other field spell. I believe this is the dark one. During the end phase, you can banish this card, activate 1 Dream Mirror of Joy directly from your hand or deck. You can only use this once per turn. Each time your opponent special summons a monster, inflict 300 damage to your opponent. This effect is only applied while you control a Dream Mirror monster. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up with the trap here. We have Dream Mirror Fantasy, a normal trap. If you control a Dream Mirror monster, target 1 each of your banished Dream Mirror of Joy and Terror, which are both the field spells, shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, banish 1 card on the field. If a Dream Mirror card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. You can only activate 1 Dream Mirror Fantasy per turn. So overall, when I look at this archetype, it's really just odd, the fact that you have this going back and forth between the light and the dark versions, the fact that you can play 1 field spell and then during your opponent's turn, or during your end phase rather, you're gonna banish it to get another field spell which does something different. Like, it almost has like an offensive kind of play style on your turn, but then when you go to your opponent's turn, you're going to want to have like the light one up because then your stuff's protected. You get the white Dream Mirror Knight out, which has bigger defense, protecting things. It's kind of an interesting deck, but I feel like the cards are just... they're so weird. Like, they're just so specific with so many things, and I'm really just not feeling it. Now we're gonna be moving on to the OCG imports. There's 8 of them, and this should be pretty close to the end of the video. First up is Yosenju Oroshi Channeling. It is a normal spell. If you control no monsters, activate 1 of the following effects. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except Yosenju. Add 1 level 5 or higher Yosenju monster from your deck to your hand, or place 1 Yosenju Shinchu L and Yosenju Shichu R from your deck to your pendulum zones, but destroy them during the opponent's next end phase. So again, like, I don't think you really need to be like relying on this pendulum summoning mechanic. The fact that this basically gets both of them is pretty cool instantaneously, but for the most part, I kind of just like the old way Yosenju played. I don't think you need all this extra fluff, but I'm not a dedicated Yosenju player by any stretch, so I'm sure someone can correct me in saying like this card's really good. Now we have number 29, Mannequin Cat. A lot of people have been waiting for this one. It's a light Beast Xyz effect monster, rank 2, 2000 attack, 900 defense, requiring any 2 level 2 monsters, so it is generic. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard. Special summon it to your opponent's field. If a monster or monsters is special summoned to your opponent's field while you control this monster, except during damage step, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, special summon 1 monster with the same type or attribute from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. So this card's kind of neat. It does give your opponent a monster back, but depending on what you pick, that may not matter too much. If the value you're going to generate off of Mannequin Cat is worth it, and you might even like kill them that turn, then obviously it's not going to matter whatever you give them. But I still think it's a very interesting design card, and it's pretty cool. I think the biggest downside here is the fact that it's probably a rank 2, which means not many decks are going to be able to take advantage of an effect like this. But regardless, I still think it's a very nice card. Now we have Kike Nagashi Fucho, I believe. It is a Wing Beast Xyz effect, rank 1, 0 attack and defense, requiring any 2 level 1 monster, so it is generic, unaffected by other card effects. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card. For the rest of this turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. I don't know why you'd play this over some of the other rank 1 options, just because this doesn't really do anything. The fact it's unaffected by other card effects, I guess, is pretty significant, but again, I think there's better things you could play in the rank 1 category. Now we have White Aura Monoceros. It is a water fish synchro effect, level 7, 2500 attack, 1500 defense. Requires 1 water tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. When it's synchro summoned, you can target 1 fish monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can banish 1 other water monster from your graveyard, special summon this card, and if you do, it is treated as a tuner. So I think this might be one of the last White Aura cards that we get, and again, the White Aura cards are pretty good. I think just the problem is the fact that they're kind of centric around fish, and it's just a very like not supported archetype for the most part. It's probably the biggest hindrance to them, but pretty good card for what it is. The fact that it can come back as a tuner is pretty nice. Now we have White Howling. This is actually a card that is very underrated and overlooked for this set. So it's a normal trap. If you control a water monster, target 1 spell in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. And if you do, for the rest of this turn, negate all spell effects on your opponent's field. So just think about this. Shizuku is a water monster. So if you're playing a Sky Striker mirror match and you have Shizuku up during your opponent's turn, which you always end on Shizuku, you can side deck in White Howling, flip this, banish one of their spells, and now basically you just Imperial Ordered them for the turn. Yeah, this card is really, really good. Definitely pick these up, even if you're not playing Sky Striker or a water deck. If there's ever a water deck that's going to be relevant in the game, White Howling will see play. Next up, we have FA Shining Star GT. Look at that beautiful secret in Japan. It is a light machine link effect with bottom left and bottom right arrows, 0 attack, but it's a link 2. Requires any 2 machines, so it's fairly generic, at least by machine standards. Gains attack equal to the total level of the FA monsters at points 2 times 300. Neither player takes any battle damage from attacks involving this card. Each time an FA spell or trap card or effect is activated, place 1 athlete counter on this card. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can remove an athlete counter, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy. You can only use this effect once per turn. So again, it's not bad, but it is a FA-centric link. The arrows are nice for machines, but there's just better things you could play at that point. But it's a pretty cool card. It has monster negation, so I mean, like, you really can't complain. Next up is Dragunity Knight Romulus, probably one of the best cards in this entire set. It is a Wind Dragon Link effect, bottom left, bottom right arrow, so it's link 2 with 1200 attack. Requires 2 dragon and or wing beast monsters except tokens. If it's link summoned, you can add a Dragunity spell or trap or a Dragon Ravine from your deck to your hand. So that's already good right there. If a dragon monster or monster is a special summon from the extra deck to a zone this card points to, except during damage step, you can special summon 1 dragon or wing beast monster from your hand in defense position, but for the rest of the turn, its effects, if any, are negated, and it cannot be used as link material. You can only use each effect once per turn. This card just does it all, and basically for any sort of dragon deck, they're going to want to be playing this because being able to have access to get to Dragon Ravine is crazy. The fact that you can special summon a dragon from your hand is crazy, especially even if the effects are negated, it doesn't matter because it turns back on during the next turn. Just because it can't be used as link material, you can use it as Xyz material, synchro material. There's so many ways to work around this card. It's so powerful, and like I said, probably one of the best cards of the set. Even though it's not really in Rising Rampage, it's an OCG import. Then lastly, we have Rogue of Endymion. It is a fire spellcaster effect monster, level 3, 1500 attack, 200 defense. If it's normal or special summon, place a spell counter on it. You can remove a spell counter from it and discard a spellcaster monster. Set 1 continuous spell directly from your deck, but for the rest of this turn, you cannot activate it or cards or effects of the cards with its name. You can only use each effect of Rogue of Endymion once per turn. So it's cool that it searches continuous spells, but you can't basically use it until the next turn, which means you're probably going to die. Yeah, I'm not really too fond of it. There's way better Endymion cards. I would just pretty much give this one a pass. So guys, that is going to do it. We finished the full set review for Rising Rampage. Overall, this set's pretty lackluster. I'm going to be completely honest. There's a few redeeming qualities and some nice cards, but for the most part, this is definitely one of the weaker sets we've had. There's nothing that's really going to shake up the meta too much here, unless we get something completely out of left field. But for the most part, there's going to be some includes in some certain strategies, but for the most part, the meta is going to stay relatively the same. It's a bit unfortunate. There could have been some cooler TCG exclusives. Who knows? Maybe the next set will have something better, but overall, I'm not really too hyped about this set. set, I would just buy the single cards that I want out of it, stuff like Appaloosa, different things like that, maybe a playset of white Howlings and maybe a copy of Romulus, but for the most part, even with those hyper rare prismatic cards, that hasn't sold me on this set. So guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this set overall. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on which card you're looking forward to the most. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.